I like to keep those types of things where I know I'm looking every day. So, like a planner, like the fridge, right? Doesn't have to be there. Could be you put it on your mirror, on your vanity mirror to remind you. Post-it notes. Don't have to use a whole page. You could just take a little post-it note to remind you of what you're working towards. And you would be shocked at how your subconscious brain starts to internalize that information and starts, feeding you the next step. Hi, and welcome to season 2 of How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. And I'm so excited. Last year, we had an episode every single week, and we got tons of, like thousands and thousands of downloads, and it just really blew my mind. But I'm really excited. I have tons more to share this year, and I can't wait to get started. So I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season, and I hope food was not a reason that you guys got stressed out and you were able to enjoy all the festivities, aside from, whatever picky eating struggles your child may or may not be having currently. So today's episode is sort of, I guess, like a little bit of a self reflection for me as well. And I want it to be one for you. And I want, right? So we're really talking about why do we want our kids to eat more this year? Is this going to be the year they do it? Why do we really want that so bad? And I did write like a couple of notes about it. For me personally, when I thought about this and when I had the idea for this episode specifically, I really did want to first preface that, I know that my child's struggles with eating are in no comparison to where other children struggle, right? We definitely have a lot more severe kids in our clinic than my child is. However, that does not mean that there isn't room for improvement, right? Just because he does eat a variety of foods doesn't mean that every day is sunshine and roses for eating, right? So, what does that mean for us, right? So, right now, my biggest struggles is the presentation of certain foods, right? If it doesn't look a certain way, he is not going to eat it. If it is not in some sort of a bread, he's not going to eat it. He's not going to be adventurous and try when we go to, get Japanese food or Indian food, right? He's not, moving into those, tasting into those new other foods that we would love him to, right? So for me personally, this year, having my child eat more foods means more freedom, right? So I love going out to eat. I love trying new things, but sometimes our choices of where we're going and when are really based on him, and I don't want to make my plans around him so much. I do want him to be excited and tag along with us. So what do I mean? You know, if we're thinking about where to go for dinner, for me to have an easier or a more relaxed time, that means that we're going to have to go someplace I know that there's one or two things on the menu he's going to eat. So that means probably not going to a sushi restaurant, right? Because I know that he doesn't do well with those types of foods. They're not foods he's currently interested in eating. And I know I would have to basically pack him another meal, or I'd have to feed him ahead of time. And sometimes you just want an easy night. Sometimes you just want it to be, effortless. So we might choose to do something like pizza instead. And I know that that might be very trivial for some people who are struggling way worse and they can't even go out to eat, right? But there's a spectrum of this, and not, every picky eater is going to be that severe, and not every case is going to be a little bit different, right? So for me personally, that's where I want to improve this year. Those are my goals, and I want you to reflect. What are your goals and why? Now, another reason for me is, I love food so much, and I find so much joy in food and trying new things, tasting new things, and exploring. Because To me, when I'm exploring a new cuisine, it's almost like I'm exploring that culture a little bit, and I'm just really fascinated. Like, I love travel, I love, going new places, meeting new people, learning about the foods they eat, why they eat them, how they prepare them. I find it all to be absolutely fascinating, and it's for sure like a love or hobby that I have. So I want, when we love something so much and we're so passionate, a lot of times we want our kids to share in that a little. And that's not to mean that we're going to force them to love exactly what we love, right? He doesn't have to have a love of culture and travel and all of that. But as a professional in this realm, I do see that it's not that he isn't interested in it so much as like, as I am. It's just for him, I do still see some fear and hesitation around food. And, it's not because he's tried it a bunch of times and it wasn't for him. It's that sometimes he is not even trying it at all. And I know that if he did try it, and I know oral motor wise, he can handle it, right? So we've gotten past that hurdle. But now it's that, okay, like I know you can handle it. You don't even know you can handle it yet. So how do we get you there? And as a professional and a parent, I find it so hard to do the therapy, on your own kid, right? A lot of times you just want the day to go smooth and it to go easy. So I totally feel that. But I do make efforts every day. I don't do everything I suggest every single day, but I do make efforts to make these small changes. And we do see progress. We have added tons of new foods last year that he had dropped. We added a bunch back. And I know that this year we're going to add even more. It's definitely snowballing, and we're definitely seeing the progress. And I think both of us, me and my husband, being on the same page with the food and how we speak to him about food has helped tremendously. Because for a while, there was a lot of back and forth of like, oh, don't say that. Oh, you said that wrong. Or like, and then he would get annoyed at like, oh, I'm not doing it right. Like, oh, I'm not doing anything right. Like, there's that back and forth of like, that push and pull of just general that relationship and how to parent and what to say and what not to say, and the stress of that. But I feel like we've kind of moved past that, and he does understand why I say certain things, or why the way I say certain things, and both of us saying them, sort of as like a united front, like we're both kind of doing it the same way. I have found that that has made a huge difference in the progress. Like, I feel like once we really started doing that, it was easier to see progress, because it wasn't like, well, dad's telling me to take a bite, but mom never says to take a bite. Like, who do I listen to? What's going on? There's that it's like cohesive, I guess is the word I'm trying to say. Our plan is cohesive, and it is working really nicely. So I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for him to try new foods, and I hope that he loves them like I do, and if he doesn't, that's okay. But I really want him to get over that fear of that, "Oh, I can't handle that food," because I know that he can handle it now. Now it's just, kind of like he has to prove to himself that he can do it, and every time he does something new and he has that positive experience with that food, it just makes the next food easier and easier. So I see a lot of great progress, and, I hope that you guys have whatever your goals are for your child, think about that why. So I actually, over the break, I sort of revamped my free offering. It is an absolutely amazing guide. It's called Navigating the Plate: The Ultimate Guide to Understanding and Remediation of Picky Eating. And it is free. It is free. And the first thing I have in there, the pre-work, is actually this exact exercise that we're talking about. So there's a page where I want you to say why you want your child to be less picky. Because if we don't have a good why, it's going to make it much harder to achieve that goal. So having a clear vision of what are your reasons? Why does your heart want this for your child? And then in the other column, I want you to think about how it would impact your life or their life. Would your meal times be easier? Would you be able to go out to eat more? Would you have more flexibility about where you spend your vacations? Would school lunches be easier? Would your child be healthier or sick less often because they're eating a better diet? Right. So, what is the reason? And how is it going to change your life or their life or both? Because that clarity will help, put sort of the steps in front of you that you need to achieve that. Right. So if it's just a general goal, like, well, I want them to eat more just because, like, and you never really dug a little bit deeper, it's going to be a little harder to see those steps that you need to get to that thing. And the emotional pull that comes with the reason is what is going to keep you motivated, keep you doing actions, every day towards that goal. It's really important. So I would even say taking this sheet and putting it on your fridge, or if you have a planner that you use, I still, every time I try the digital planner, I always go back to paper and pen. I like looking at it that way. I like being able to see everything. So I like to keep those types of things where I know I'm looking every day. So like a planner, like the fridge, right? Doesn't have to be there. Could be you put it on your mirror, on your vanity mirror, to remind you. Post-it notes. You can don't have to use a whole page. You could just take a little post-it note to remind you of what you're working towards. And you would be shocked at how your subconscious brain starts to internalize that information and starts, feeding you the next step to get you there. Right. That's sort of that almost like law of attraction principle. But it's that basically like once you have that clarity of what your goal is, it makes it much easier to achieve that goal. So, so those are those are my reasons. I want you to hopefully download this free guide and write your own reasons so that you can set yourself up for a really successful year. And pick like maybe one action that is an easy action, right? Like I said, even I don't do all of my suggestions every single day. Like some days we're just like, you know, trying to get on to the next day and or we have a lot going on and sometimes I do have a little bit more time to dedicate to this. So I don't do everything every single day. Pick one small thing you can do. And I'm going to give you a really quick tip that I just posted on my Instagram stories and on YouTube shorts, but it's a super easy thing. It is literally 3 words that I say every time I see a cue. And it is working really well. It's such a simple tip. And it's really all about changing your words, right? It's nothing new, right? I talk about this before, but basically what had happened was when we went to visit my in-laws, I had brought these chips that are kelp chips, and they actually taste incredibly good. I think it is it Rising Seas is the brand. But they are like these air puffed chips that have kelp in them. And kelp is wonderful, right? Kelp is like a seaweed. It has like iodine in it and lots of good minerals. Um, really wonderful, right? So getting kids to eat seaweed more challenging than getting kids to eat air puff chips, right? So, and in terms of, you know, ingredients in there, really, I love the ingredients. I don't see anything toxic or I'm really happy with the product is what I'm trying to say. And so I was thrilled. You can imagine that he was eating these kelp chips, no problem. So we go there and my mother-in-law sees him eating these green chips and she's making faces. She's like, green? Why would you eat green? And I'm like dying inside, like, what are you doing? He's eating the chips, no problem. Why are you discouraging him from eating healthy chips? Are you joking? Um, so so she was like, "Oh, I don't know. Oh, these," she tastes them. She's like, "These taste green to me. They're too green." I was like, "That doesn't even mean anything." That's so you can see how how adults can easily just saying the wrong thing. So, as you might imagine, he stopped eating the chips, and I was a little bit livid about it. Um, but I was determined to get him back eating the chips. I was like, "We just had these in our repertoire. There's no need to drop them because of a dumb comment that she made. So, what can we do instead?" Right? So, I just started saying green is good every time I saw something green. So, if every time I put the chip on his plate, I can't tell you, it was probably a good solid 2 weeks that I would put a chip on his plate and he just ignored it completely. And again, these were chips that he would eat by the fistfuls, no problem before. So, every time I said it, I saw it, I would just say, "Oh, green is good." And sometimes I'd be cooking something and he'd see me and I'd be like, "Green is good." I might be eating a salad and I'm showing him and I just say, "Green is good." Well, guess what? By about a week and a half in, he started imitating me, saying green is good. Wasn't necessarily eating the greens just yet, but he was starting to parrot me, which is great because my that's what we want, right? We want our words to have that change in at the subconscious level at some point so that they then start to shift and start to believe those things, right? So if you keep saying green is good over and over again, we're training their brains to think that green is good. Now, green is historically a very hard um, food for kids. Like picky eaters oftentimes do not have green in their diet. And there's a few reasons for that. I think that, well, for one, greens have fiber, like lots of fiber. Think about celery, broccoli, lettuce. Like it does take more effort to chew it and to break it down. And, so a lot of our kids who are picky eaters, almost all of them have very poor oral motor skills. So breaking down foods that are more fibrous are just more difficult. So there's that piece. The other piece is, our DNA is sort of hardwired to be a little fearful of certain plants, and a lot of plants are green. And if you go just take a walk, you're going to see green plants everywhere. And almost none of them are ones that we eat that are safe to eat. It's not like you're taking a walk in your neighborhood and you see a green plant and it's kale, like that's not it. It's some sort of bush with like a poisonous berry on it, right? Um, so, think about like years and years of conditioning of being a little bit fearful. Now, of course, we know the foods that are poisonous, we know the foods that are safe, but there is that underlying hard wire, I think, that is just an extra hurdle. So I think just that little verbal reminder, green is good when we're presenting them with what we know to be safe green foods, is going to be hopefully well received. Right? So even just doing a minimal, I mean, that is like zero effort involved. It's literally saying those 3 words, and it doesn't have to just be green. You can say orange is good, right? One day he had a whole bunch of colors on his plate, and I was like, green is good, orange is good, blue is good, purple is good. And I had him, he started just helping me. So I didn't make him even say it. He just is starting to internalize it and say it on his own, which is what you want. So you know that you're starting to shift mindset when you start to hear them talk about food differently. And guess what? He did start eating those chips again. Now, granted, it's not a brand new food, right? He's eaten them before, but the plan worked, right? We were getting him back to a preferred food that was healthy for him, good for his body, that he liked. It's like he almost needed to be reminded that he liked it and that feeling of safety, right? Because her words took that feeling of safety away. Like, oh, wait, maybe this isn't a good food for me, right? And I almost had to like remind him and convince him that no, like this is okay. You are safe. It is good. It's good for you. Everyone's winning when you eat this, right? So, maybe just trying one of my small strategies. I have lots of quick tips for you on Instagram, on YouTube. So please be sure to subscribe and check them out so you don't miss them. I have content planned for literally every single day of 2024. So please subscribe. Make sure you don't miss anything. And I'm really excited for what this year is going to hold for everyone. So, please let me know in the comments if this strategy worked for you too. I would love to hear about it, and I do hope it does. And I wish you guys happy meal times. Be sure to check out the guide. It's linked in my Instagram bio, and it is linked on the bottom of the YouTube video as well. So be sure to download that guide so you can practice this exercise at home and get ready for a really fantastic 2024 filled with lots of trying new foods. All right. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.